commentary of the awakening mind. So this text is composed by Indian master Nagarjuna. So verse 53, to whom consciousness is momentary, to them it cannot be permanent. So if the mind is impermanent, how could it be consistent with the emptiness? Number 54, in brief, if the Buddha uphold the mind to be impermanent, how could they not uphold that it is empty as well? 55, from the very beginning itself, the mind never had any intrinsic nature. It is not being started here then an entity which possess intrinsic existence somehow like this. 56. If one asserts that our abandons the locus of selfhood in the mind, it is not the nature of things to transcend one's own intrinsic nature. 57. Just as sweetness is the nature of molasses, and then the heat, the nature of fire, likewise, we maintain that the nature of all phenomena is emptiness. 58. When one speaks of emptiness as the nature of phenomena, one in no sense performs nihilism. By the same taking, one does not perform atomism or absolutism. Absolutism other. 59. Starting with ignorance and ending with etching, all processes that arise from the 12 links of interdependent origination, we accept them to be like a dream and an illusion. 60. This will with 12 links rolling along the road of cycle of existence. Outside these, there cannot be sentient beings experience the fruit of their deeds. Okay, now go back to the beginning. Mind consciousness, right, is impermanent, right? So we have different types of mind consciousness. Gross consciousness always coming, remaining and dissolving, changing. Like we can see, we can hear, we can smell, taste, all are fluctuating, all the times. That's momentarily changing, come, stay a little while and departure. When we speak about more, how can I say this? More subtle consciousness, then when we are dreaming, all our gross mind cease, and your mental mind is, dreaming and experience all this of dream. So it's more subtler than the sensory mind. And there's some mind is, so we believe that clear-light mind and luminous mind. So these minds are continuation. It's continuity all the times. Today your mind continued yesterday. So tomorrow, it keep going like this, continuation. So what Buddha is talking about, that our nature of mind is clear and luminosity, and advantages are temporary. They are like cloud coming and going, So therefore, when we speak about the very subtle, clear-like mind, then we should say that continuity of mind is permanent. Mind itself is impermanent. Continuity of mind is permanent, but mind itself is impermanent. Today your mind continued yesterday. Go like that. You understand what I'm saying? How could we how could it be consistent with emptiness, right? Everything coming from emptiness, right? From the Buddhist perspective, everything coming from the emptiness. So that means, what is the true meaning of emptiness, right? True meaning of emptiness is to be understood in terms of the dependent origination. Or dependent origination, in true meaning of emptiness means must be understood in terms of dependent origination. Patiya samandapati, Sanskrit. Patiya means dependent, samandapati means arising. Patiya samandapati, Sanskrit. So understanding dependent arising is essential point to understand emptiness. Otherwise, you will go to the nihilism or either go to the absolutism. You know what I mean? Empty does not mean non-existence. So it is here Nagarjuna, Indian master Nagarjuna says, that which in fundamental wisdom, that which is dependent origination has been taught to be empty, and I call the middle way. Nagarjuna says, that which is dependent origination is called the empty. So that's why I call the middle way, because middle way means it will cut the two extremes, nihilism and absolutism. So nihilism means it doesn't empty but do exist. Emptiness does not mean non-existence. Nihilism, you cut empty, does not mean non-existence. Empty means empty of objective inherent existence. So for example, like cup is empty of inherent existence, because cup does not have the quality of the inherent existence. If the cup have quality of inherent existence, then it should be not depend on the parts. You know what I mean? Cup is merely labeled and designated by the parts. Table is merely designated by the parts. So table, then parts are the base of designation of the table, and you see this part, then you identify this is table. You see your body and mind, then you identify I am, something like I am Geshe, Ngawang, I am Geshe, or I am Li, or you see your body and mind, your five aggregates, your base of designation, and then you identify yourself. Understand what I'm saying? So empty, so it means that middle way, Nagarjuna coming into middle way means that dependent origination is very, very important to understand emptiness. Otherwise, you will go to the nihilism. You know what I mean? If you don't understand dependent arising, empty means nothing exists. Emptiness, when we say empty, it not necessarily do exist. Yeah, we have to, right? But whatever empty or horn rabbit, we say horn rabbit empty, sky flower empty. We're saying empty, but we're negating something, right? Not necessarily something we negate is emptiness. So horn rabbit, empty or horn rabbit is not emptiness. Why? Because there's no base. Horn rabbit is non-existence. And the sky blue, sky flower doesn't exist. Right?
No.
We can say sky flower is empty, but we have to be very careful. When we say empty, here going to the middle way means cut the two extremes. And understood dependent origination is the key factor of understanding emptiness. So this is very important. Otherwise, you will, go to the nihilism or either go to the absolutism. Absolutism means you hold object to be exist inherently. That's the absolutism. That's the projection of your mind. Nothing exists. You know what I mean? Absolutism. So what happened is understanding Nagarjuna says emptiness is the quality of all phenomena. All phenomena. Emptiness is the quality of all phenomena. What does that mean? Quality of all phenomena. If something exists, should be empty of inherent existence. If something exists, I can say like this, dependent arising and independent existence are mutually exclusive. Dependent arising and independent existence is mutually exclusive. Because when you think about dependent origination, this will dispel the independent existence. If you're thinking more about independent existence, then this will obscure to understand the dependent origination, because independent existence. So that means not depend on other factors, right? So then independent existence, so then you oppose the dependent origination. So that means Nagarjuna saying the emptiness is the quality of all the phenomena. If something exists, then we can speak about emptiness. Something exists, we can speak about two truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth. We cannot speak emptiness of the horn rabbit and emptiness of the sky flower because no base, no conventional base. We need conventional base, right, to speak about empty. So when we say horn rabbit, there's nothing existing. It's projection of your mind. Right? Your mind is creating this horn rabbit, but it's non-existent. So anyway, so now to understand to emptiness, very important to understand dependent origination. So dependent origination, then the dependent origination of the cause and effect, dependent origination of the path, and dependent origination of the designating and merely level by the mind. Three different types of dependent origination. The most important to understand the emptiness is dependent origination of the designating or merely labeled by the mind. So this is the most subtle dependent arising to understand emptiness. Because when we speak about the dependent origination of cause and effect, it does not go to all the phenomena. It only goes to the impermanent phenomena, not goes to the permanent phenomena. You cannot speak cause and effect, right? Permanent phenomena, no cause, no effect. So, but first, very important that this one statement, very beautiful statement of the Nagarjuna text, fundamental wisdom. There is no phenomena that is not dependent originated. There is nothing that's not empty. There is no phenomena that is not dependent origination. There is nothing that is not empty. So everything created by emptiness because of the dependent origination. And emptiness go together. Otherwise you will fall into the nihilism. This is why middle way, coming to the middle way. So that first first is the dependent origination of cause and effect. Then dependent origination of the whole and parts. And then third is dependent origination of designating or merely labeling by the mind. So these three. So now dependent origination of cause and effect is very important to understand the whole and parts. And then whole and parts very important to understand the dependent origination of the merely labeled by the mind. So we should go like. So first one is dependent origination of cause and effect. So Buddha relate to the 12 links of interdependent origination. Cause and effect. 12 links of interdependent origination is samsara, So samsara first is created by the fundamental ignorance. Fundamental ignorance. Because of ignorance, then we create the karma. Then karma, we have to carry the karma by the consciousness. And then there is three things: craving, grasping, and becoming. Craving, grasping, becoming. These five, motivated by ignorance, create the karma, and then we carry the karma because of the consciousness. But unless craving, grasping, not giving support, will not return the karma. So because of this, cause and effect that motivated by ignorance and then create the karma because of craving, grasping, support, and then carried by the consciousness. And this will give you samsara, name and form, six senses, then we have contact, feeling, and then becoming, then birth, aging, and death. So this is samsara, 12 links of dependent origination. So understanding dependent origination, cause and effect. So not only this one, Buddha also told to understand the dependent origination of cause, we must understand there are four principal things. So number one is the principle of nature. Number two is the principle of dependence. And number three is the principle of the functioning. And number four is principle of valid proof. So you understand this principle of nature. It is nature, we cannot change the nature, right? It's nature, we cannot change. It is universal law. Like fire nature is heat, we cannot change this one. Water nature is moisture, no. And wind nature is moving. We cannot change this nature, right? So, so this is what Buddha talking about. Principle of nature. Nature we cannot change. It is universal cause and universal law, right? Principle of nature, right? Then principle of dependence. So principle of dependence means Buddha saying that if result, we need appropriate cause. Anything cannot produce anything, right? For example, like external seed, if you plant the apple seed, it will grow apple, not mango. So principle of dependence means you need result, you need also appropriate cause. So this will come to our emotion. If the cause is negative, result will be suffering. If the cause is positive, result will be happiness. So negative mind cannot produce happiness. Principle of dependence. That's the meaning of the principle of dependence, right? Principle of functioning, right? So we have nature, dependence, and what the function, right? Have to functioning means. So if we motivated by ignorance, then if we create thought like negative emotions, anger. What is the function of anger? What is the function of all the afflictive emotions? It will destroy your mind. That's the functioning. If the more positive, if the more compassionate, the function will peace and discipline the mind, subdue the mind. So that's why Buddha saying principle of functioning and principle of valid proof, evidence. Now you have evidence from the principle of law, principle of dependence, principle of functioning. Now you have proof. If I really want ultimate happiness, I should be disciplining my mind through understanding of emptiness. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the why relationship between the dependent origination of the cause and effect. Now this will not go to the all the phenomena, right? It only go to the impermanence, but not for the permanence. So you need to understand whole and parts. So whole and parts, you take example of the chair, right? Chair and parts. Chair is whole, parts. Like all this wood, what is all the chairs, legs or whatever, But so chair, parts, leg, all these are the base of designation of the chair. Right? Part is not chair. But because of chairs, parts, legs, all sides, all this come together, you identify this is chair. Right? So that parts are not chair.
No.
But seeing this part, you can identify the chair. So this is what we call the dependent origination of the whole and parts. So the point is, when we say the chair, right? Where is the chair?
You can't find the chair.
If you try to find the chair, you will not find the chair.
No.
But it do exist.
Yeah.
Because it do exist, because it depends on the parts.
Yeah.
Parts are not chair, but seeing the part, you will identify this is chair. seeing your body and mind, you identify yourself and me. So this is the base of designation. So whole and this is the dependent origination, right? Now, origination of the dependent origination of the labeling and designated. This is the most important Nagarjuna saying in the fundamental wisdom. To understand middle way, we have to understand this one. Merely labeled by the mind, designated by the mind. Mere will dispel this mere, right? Mere will dispel objective existence or existing from the side of the object. Mere dispel inherent or objective existence. So when you dispel this inherent and objective existence, you will understand the middle way of emptiness. You understand what I'm saying? So this dependent origination. So now, if I say like this, last time I said very easy way to meditate on emptiness is you sitting on the cushion, right? Sitting on the cushion. And who is sitting on the cushion? Right? Me. My body is sitting on the cushion, I'm sitting on the cushion. So I'm sitting on the cushion because I exist. If I'm exist, I'm not in an existence. This is simple way you discover yourself, right? I want to meditate, I want to sit on the cushion. Who is sitting on the cushion? Me. Me, who is you? My body is sitting on the cushion, right? Say, me. Like this chair part, you see, and then you say this is chair. So we see your body, aggregates, and then you say I'm sitting on the cushion. So if you're sitting on the cushion, right, then you are what? Depend on the body and mind. If you're depending on the body and mind, then you are not in an existence. Then I'm absence of independent existence. Then if you're thinking like this, simply discover yourself. Discover yourself. Then I'm not in an existence. Because I'm depend on my body and mind. If I depend on my body and mind, I am not in an existence. Then you negate what? Inherent existence, self. And then you identify yourself, how can I say, like conventional self very clearly. Usually we cannot identify ourselves because inherent existence and self mixed together. Most time inherent existence, how can I say this? To obscure the see our conventional self, mixed together. So when you're thinking like this, right, simple way, if you want a deeper understanding of emptiness, then you have to go more, right? That is not enough to, what you have to do is, first you're sitting on the cushion, right? And then you're sitting on the cushion and I'm meditating. So you experience. Now what you have to do is, you have to identify this inherent existence self. So when you see sitting on the cushion, not easy to identify that self. When you say I'm happy, when you say I eat, I have all these experience, but not easy to pinpoint this inherent existence self. To pinpoint, you need strong grasping. Imagine somebody say you are a thief, then it comes very clearly. If somebody says, oh, you are so bad, during that period, then you will see that inherent existence self vivid and very clear. You are grasping, I'm not thief. And then you feel like you pinpoint this inherent existence self. Very strong grasping, but no grasping, it doesn't exist clearly. When something like this, right, I'm good meditator, I'm good practitioner, then it will come up. And then you see this self very clear, and we that self we should negate. This is the object of negation. Identifying, we have to understand what is real object of negation. But in an existence self, we are not negating the idea of the inner existence self. Idea is conceptual mind.
Yeah.
What we are negating is which does not exist. False view of tensor to the collection project this self. We have false view of tensor to the collection. That is grasping mind. This mind make this self independent, in an existence self, but very difficult to recognize. So what we have to do is, first, when you are meditating, try to identify this self and pinpoint, and then you really pinpoint this is the inherent existence self. Now I should negate this self. This is number one essential point to meditate on emptiness. Now second point is, if this, you have to use many logic, right? If this inherent existence self do exist, then only two ways. Should be one with the body or totally separate from the body. This grasping, remember if it exists, it should be one with aggregates or totally separate from the aggregates. If it is one with the aggregate, then what's the say? Body and mind one. Body and mind one. But body and mind separate. Your body and mind not one, right? If it is totally separate from the aggregates, then you cannot say my body, my mind, it belongs to me, nothing. It's separate. Then you realize if this self exists, it should be exist only two ways. One with aggregates or one totally separate from them. Through my analytical meditation, I realize not one with aggregates, not totally separate from the aggregates, and there is no third way to exist this self. Then you come to the pinpoint, it should be based on aggregates with a designated by the mind. And then you understand, you meditating on the emptiness of yourself. That's the simple way of meditation. Identify object of the. So here this one, Nagarjuna, fundamental wisdom. The key characteristic of emptiness is ability to dissolve all conceptual elaboration. That is the key. When we are meditating on emptiness, we are ability to dissolve all our thoughts, emotions, because we are not fixing on the thoughts. We are not conforming the thought. We are trying to dissolve the thought. Meditating on emptiness means emotion, thought, conceptual mind, whatever appears to our mind, nature is empty. It will go back to the empty. Whatever coming from the sky, all go back to the sky. Nothing, right now is we can't see the sky because of raining, but blue sky is still there. You know what I mean? Blue sky always there. It is, but temporarily covered, right? Similarly, our mind is, nature is always clear. And the advantages are temporary. They are not in nature, in the mind. Through meditation on the emptiness, you are able to dissolve all this thought, elaboration. And finally, you are able to remove all the afflictive emotions as well as the imprint, habituation of afflictive emotions. So that's the simple way of the meditating on emptiness. Now, this point, maybe we think that how can we meditate on emptiness? Because our ignorance is so thick. Will discourage yourself. Oh, how can, impossible, the ignorance, the afflictive emotions are very habituation. We are our habit. But you shouldn't think like this. Both ignorance and wisdom realizing emptiness are mental quality. Both are mind quality. But when we speak about ignorance, fundamental ignorance is blind of reality. No reality, fundamental ignorance. It's mistaken. Its ground is mistaken, Ground is mistaken because no reality. If ground is mistaken, no reality, and then we think about the wisdom realizing mind. His ground is full of valid, solid reason. Even small understanding of emptiness will dispel the ignorance because ground. One is false ground, one is valid, good, solid ground. You know what I mean? Yeah, if you want building, you have to build in a solid place. Otherwise, if the ground is not solid, you may build beautiful castle, but collapse. You know what I mean? Ignorance, something like this. We should not think, how can we do meditate? How can we remove the ignorance because of but you should think it is false, it is no valid base, it is totally projection of the mind, no valid reason, cannot go further. Wisdom, understanding emptiness is valid foundation, good, solid ground. Even small, tiny test will dispel many, many things. This is what Lama Tsongkhapa said in the Press to Dependent Era. Even you have doubt about emptiness, will dispel thousands of the mistaken. We have no doubt, right? We are studying, we are thinking, and we know what is emptiness, how much it will dispel. It will dispel the thousands of ignorance. So that's the point. We should not, so difficult, ignorance so thick. But we have to use this is the quality in the. Okay, thank you.